When we install the plugin, it has to be licensed. To do this, the UID code that we will have to send to SGSE to generate the license appears in this window. We can copy it to the clipboard and email it to SGSE. They will send a license-lick file that we will have to find in the plugin installation directory. By default, the directory is c:/program files/milestone/MIP plugins/Galaxy Monitor. When we locate the license-lick file with a valid license in the plugin directory, the management client interface tells us that the plugin has been successfully licensed and shows us the license information, the number of license panels, and if the license is a temporary demo version or not. To register a panel, we will go to the Galaxy Panel section. Right-click on Add New and give it a name to identify it in the system. We select the connection mode with the panel Direct IP Communication or through an IP RS-232 converter. We configure the listening port to receive events, by default 10002. The IP address of the panel or the RS-232 converter. And the port through which we will connect to the panel to send the commands. We also configure the PIN code of the remote user. This is the user who uses the integration. We select the Galaxy panel model that we are installing. We mark the groups, zones and outputs that have been configured in the panel and of which we want to create the elements in Milestone. The items that will be created can be defined as the source of the intrusion events from the panel and will allow us to represent the intrusion elements on a map. Once we have configured the panel and the elements have been created in Milestone, we can specify the type of detector associated with each zone. We can select between volumetric, magnetic contact, break glass sensor, panic button, or seismic detector. The type of the zone will determine the icon that will be displayed on the map when the zone is added. As we can see, the zones with the icon are displayed on the map depending on the type of zone selected. Volumetric, magnetic contact, break glass sensor, panic button or seismic detector. The plugin incorporates a series of events related to intrusion into Milestone's own battery of events. These events can be used to trigger rules or to define alarms. When we create a rule, when we select the trigger event, a new group of Galaxy Monitor events related to the intrusion panel appears. Here we will have all the events that the panel is capable of triggering corresponding to the SIA events. For example, with the SIA theft alarm signal, the BA event, triggered in zone 1003, we will be able to carry out any action available in Milestone, such as moving a PTZ camera to a certain preset. In this way, when the alarm event is triggered in zone 1003, the PTZ will move to preset 5Z. Thus, intrusion events are fully integrated into Milestone's event logic. In the same way, we can define alarms based on the intrusion events that the plugin incorporates. The Galaxy Monitor Events group is created, where we can select any of the events. For example, with the BA event, burglary alarm, we can indicate that when the burglary alarm event occurs in any of the zones, an alarm is triggered in Milestone. In this simple way, we have the intrusion alarms of the Galaxy panels within Milestone. When defining an alarm, we can associate a camera with it. In this way, when an alarm is triggered in a certain zone, for example zone 1001, in Milestone we will have an associated video. In the Related Camera section, we select the camera associated with the zone, so that when an alarm occurs, we will have a preview of the video in the Smart Client interface. The plugin, in addition to the events, incorporates a series of actions that allow us to interact with the panel through the rules defined in Milestone. When we create a rule, we can define any Milestone event as its trigger event. The action that will take place when this rule is activated will allow us to interact directly with the intrusion panel. We can see how the plugin adds new actions that we can perform automatically when any event occurs in Milestone. We can arm and disarm the panel, arm and disarm a partition, inhibit or permit a zone, and activate or deactivate the panel outputs. In this example, when the manual event demo event occurs, output 1002 of the intrusion panel will be activated. The plugin also allows us to apply the Milestone user permissions on the different intrusion elements. Through the user roles, we can define which permissions each user group has on the different intrusion elements configured in the system. Thus, we can indicate whether the users belonging to the role have the ability to activate or deactivate the outputs, work on the inhibition status of the zones, and arm or disarm partitions. This configuration can be done globally on all partitions, zones, or outputs of a certain panel, or individually on each of the zones, partitions, or outputs. In this case, the user could inhibit zone 1001, but not zone 1002. In the Smart Client, we can place the different elements of the intrusion panel on a map, as well as the panel itself. Once located on the map, we can interact with them using the right button. We are able to arm and disarm the partitions, inhibit or uninhibit the zones, and activate or deactivate the outputs. We can also work on the complete panel by arming or disarming in a total or partial way. To add intrusion elements to a map, we access the configuration mode of the Smart Client, and the elements that have been created in the configuration will appear in the Plugins menu. The partitions, the zones, and the outputs. Adding them to the map is as simple as dragging and dropping them. The icons on the map show us the state of the different elements. The green color indicates a state of rest. Interacting, for example, with partition A1, by means of the right mouse button, we can arm it. When the partition is armed, the icon turns orange. In the same way, we can disarm the partition. The outputs show an open contact when they are in the inactive state, and when activated, the icon closes. The icons of the zone show us the type of sensor configured in the management client. They can represent a volumetric, a magnetic contact, a brake glass sensor, an anti-panic button, and a seismic detector. The green mark again indicates an idle state. If there is a change of state in the zone, the color of the icon changes to red. If we have defined an alarm in Milestone in a certain area, when an alarm occurs, in addition to the icon changing, it will appear in the Milestone alarm list and the characteristic red circle will also appear. It will be flashing around the item. Here we can see how the defined alarm appears. The icon shows us the status of the zone, and the circle indicates that there is an alarm on this element in Milestone. When you close the Milestone alarm, the circle disappears. And when you reset the detector, the icon returns to its idle state. Other actions that we can carry out on the intrusion elements are, in the case of partitions, partial arming. When the partition is partially armed, the icon will be half green, half orange. Using the zone icons, we can inhibit the zone. The icon will change to a red X, indicating that the zone is inhibited. If we want to work with the panel in its entirety, we can right-click on the panel icon and disarm the system completely.